Okay, the stock we're looking at for June is CVR Energy. CVR Energy is a petroleum refiner and marketer of transportation fuels. They are also a producer and marketer of nitrogen fertilizer. So those are their two main business segments. Here we see the quote from the end of Monday, $46.69. Here we see the high dividend yield they offer, 6.37%. On a more negative note, this is the payout ratio associated with that dividend, so there may be some uh, need to look into the sustainability of this 6.37% yield. Uh, Looking at the stock performance over the last 52 weeks, we see that we're not really near the low or the high in the last 52 weeks. So it's been as high as 64 and as low as 33, meaning that we're about 41% away from the low and about 37% off the highs. Uh, the 3-year PE ratio is showing that we're seeing a decent valuation in CVR Energy. 11.17 is the current PE ratio based on the 3-year average earnings. The return on equity also is pretty impressive at 24.7%. Finally, we see the price to cash flow, which is also showing a reasonable value for CVR Energy currently, 6.11. However, when considering the P/E ratio, which the P/E ratio based on the last 12 months is actually around 12 right now, but one should look at the earnings for the last several years, and you'll see that the last 3 years have been pretty positive for CVR, which is why we have this reasonable valuation now. But if you look just a little bit further, you'll see a far drop off from those previous 3 years' earnings. So 0.16 in 2010, and we even see two negative earnings years here, 2007 and 2005. So there's definitely been somewhat some swings in the earnings. So to really, before you judge the this company, you may want to realize that there have been some swing in those earnings numbers recently. But um, that said, if you were to consider the PE ratio based on the last 7 years, you would see a PE ratio of 22, which obviously is a much different picture than provided by this 11 number here. However, they do have decent financial metrics. The current ratio is 3, and they have about 25% long-term debt to capitalization. And finally, the asset to liability ratio is about 1.5 right now. So considering these valuation metrics given in this table here, as well as the high payout, the high dividend yield, they are an interesting stock to consider currently. Here we see their performance over the last 5 years. We'll quickly go through some graphs just to uh, just for interest, really, as far as whether it's a good investment or not. The metrics we looked at on the previous slide are of more value, but we'll just go through some graphs quickly. The last 5 years, we see it's been a outperformer, going up around 400% during the same period where the S&P went up about 100%. Next, we see a slightly different picture if we look over the last 2 years. Still, it's outperformed the S&P, the red line here, going up over 80%, while the S&P went up about 50% during the last 2 years. Here is where we start to see a much different picture than the previous two graphs. This is looking at the last 12 months, and we see during that time the S&P has gone up over 10%, while CVR has actually lost 20%, which is what's bringing it into the value territory we saw from slide 1. And here we see for this year so far, 2014, it has started to make a comeback, so it's gone up close to 10% so far this year, slightly outperforming the S&P there, but based on the first slide, I think there could still be some room to go and a decent dividend to come along with any stock appreciation. So that sums it up for this edition. Take a look into CVR Energy and remember to check the website seen here for the next post. Thanks. Bye.